foreperson, has the jury reached a verdict?
We have, Your Honor.
Would you hand it to the bailiff? All right, would the defendant please rise? State of New Mexico versus Alexis Avila. CR 2022-13. Verdict. We find the defendant, Alexis Avila, guilty of abuse of a child resulting in great bodily harm as charged in count 1, signed by the forepersons. Verdict. We find the defendant, Alexis Avila, guilty of attempt to commit first-degree murder as charged in count 1, signed by the forepersons. There is also a verdict form that has been scribbled through on the signature line. It says, we find the defendant, Alexis Avila, not guilty of attempt to commit first-degree murder as charged in count 1. You can be seated at this point. Let me poll the jury, and I'm going to call your badge number. And if you would identify whether or not your verdict was guilty as to attempt to commit first-degree murder as charged in count 1, and guilty as to abuse of a child resulting in great bodily harm as charged in count 1, and that the verdict form that scratched through with a mistake as to your verdict. And I'll start with juror badge number 1. Are each of the verdicts of guilty, abuse of a child resulting in great bodily harm, and the attempt to commit first-degree murder, is that your verdict?
Yes, sir.
And do you agree that the verdict form that was scratched through was simply an error?
Yes, sir.
Juror wearing badge number 2. Do you agree that it was your verdict, guilty of abuse of a child resulting in great bodily harm, also guilty of attempt to commit first-degree murder?
Yes, sir.
And do you agree that the verdict form that was scratched through was simply an error?
Yes, sir.
Juror badge number 5. Do you agree that your verdict was guilty of abuse of a child resulting in great bodily harm and guilty of attempt to commit first-degree murder?
Yes, sir.
And do you agree that the verdict form that was scratched through was simply an error?
Yes, sir.
Juror wearing badge number 10. Do you agree that the verdict form for guilty of abuse of a child resulting in great bodily harm and the verdict for attempt to commit first-degree murder was the accurate verdict? Was it your verdict?
Yes, sir.
And do you also agree that the verdict that was scratched through was simply an error?
Yes, sir.
Juror wearing badge number 12. Do you agree that the verdict, it was your verdict, guilty of abuse of a child resulting in great bodily harm and guilty of attempt to commit first-degree murder?
Yes, sir.
And do you agree that the verdict form that was scratched through was simply an error?
Yes, sir.
Juror wearing badge number 30. Do you agree that it was your verdict and the verdict of the jury of guilty of abuse of a child resulting in great bodily harm and also guilty of attempt to commit first-degree murder?
Yes, sir.
And do you agree that the verdict that was scratched through was simply an error?
Yes, sir.
Juror wearing badge number 15. Do you agree that it was your verdict and the verdict of the jury that the defendant was guilty of the abuse of a child resulting in great bodily harm and attempt to commit first-degree murder?
Yes, sir.
And do you agree that the verdict form that was scratched through was simply an error?
Yes.
Juror wearing badge number 19. Do you agree that it was your verdict and the verdict of the jury that the defendant was guilty of abuse of a child resulting in great bodily harm
Yes, sir.
and also guilty of attempted first-degree murder?
Yes.
Do you also agree that the verdict form that was scratched through was simply an error? Thank you, sir. Juror wearing badge number 24. Do you agree it was your verdict and the verdict of the jury that the defendant was guilty of abuse of a child resulting in great bodily harm and also attempted first-degree murder?
Yes, Honor.
And do you agree that the verdict form that was scratched through was simply an error?
Yes.
Juror wearing badge number 26. Do you agree that it was your verdict and the verdict of the jury that the defendant was guilty of abuse of a child resulting in great bodily harm and also attempted first-degree murder?
Yes, sir.
And do you agree that the verdict form that was scratched through was simply an error?
Yes, Your Honor.
Juror wearing badge number 27. Do you agree that the verdict form indicating guilty of abuse of a child resulting in great bodily harm and guilty of attempted first-degree murder were your verdict and the verdict of the jury?
Yes, Your Honor.
And do you agree that the form that scratched through was simply an error?
Yes, Your Honor.
Juror wearing badge number 28. Do you agree that it was your verdict and the verdict of the jury that the defendant was guilty of abuse of a child resulting in great bodily harm and also attempted first-degree murder?
Yes, sir.
And do you agree that the verdict form that was scratched through was simply an error?
Yes, sir.
Did I get everyone? I believe I did. All right, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the parties and from the court, thank you for your jury service in this case. You are now free to talk about the case if you desire. You don't have to. If someone comes up to you and wants to talk to you about the case and you tell them no, that's the end of it. Now you're free to talk to them if you wish, but if they persist, you come to me. Once again, thank you for your service, and you are excused at this time. Please stand for the jury. You may be seated. Ms. Avila, it's my obligation to advise you that you have the right to appeal the decision of the jury in this case and any evidentiary rulings made by this court. If you are financially unable to afford an attorney will be provided for you at the expense of the state. It's this court's intention to do sentencing on May 1st at 9 o'clock in the morning. The court will hear counsel on Rule 5402, release pending sentencing. The rule indicates that the court may change conditions if the court needs them to ensure, one, that the defendant will not flee from the jurisdiction, two, that the defendant's conduct will not obstruct the orderly administration of justice, or three, that the defendant does not pose a danger to any other person or the community. Those are the three things the court would have to be satisfied. Does the state have any objection to continuing conditions until sentencing on May 1st?
Yes, we do, Your Honor. First degree child abuse is a mandatory sentence. And we believe that based on the testimony we heard from Dr. Cave, that she presents with some concerns, we would ask for remand.
Okay, and under which exception would you say? Do you think the concerns make her a flight risk, the concerns make her someone that will obstruct the administration of justice, or that poses a danger to any other person or the community?
I think the first one and the last one. Your Honor, I think knowing that she's facing a mandatory sentence, that makes her a flight risk, and I think based on information we've had in this trial regarding her and her mental status, it makes her a risk.
I'll hear from defense.
Your Honor, the court in this matter set conditions that included an ankle monitor for Ms. Avila, included requirement for her to go to the guidance center and receive counseling over there. She has done all of these things along with all the other conditions the court set. She has not shown in any form or fashion that she is or could be a flight risk in this case. She has showed up to every court appearance, not interfering with the administration of justice in this case, and she has been aware from the beginning of this trial that the maximum sentence she's facing in this matter is on that first degree child abuse case, fully aware of the full time, knowing that that is a mandatory sentence, and she has done nothing to indicate that she will not submit to whatever consequences this court met on her when this trial is over. We'll ask that the court continues her conditions of release, as there is absolutely no reason to think that she will not comply going forward.
I'm going to continue her on current conditions. She has not violated any of the conditions that I previously said, and I made it clear at that time that if she violated any of them, I would put her in jail. She's done everything that I've asked since I set those conditions. May 1st is not that far off. I suggest that you prepare yourself. Anything further from the state?
No, Your Honor.
Anything further from the defense?
No.
Court's in recess on this matter.